Hello and welcome to a very special How I Paint Things. Now, what I've got whizzing around in front of me today is a bit of an odd one because I'm not doing a specific color scheme or an army that exists in any of the 40k codexes or what have you. What I want to show you today is a way that you can turn out armies extremely quickly. Now, if you have seen before the video where I said pick 3 colors and paint, well, this one's kind of in a similar vein, where you want your primer to do the work for you. As you see, things are very simple here. It is literally 1 or 2 colors difference between these 3 guys, and the bases finish off the effect. So I'm going to show you a couple of tricks. This is going to be quite quick because, as I said, the method's not as important as just a bit of inspiration, as it were. The paints for these will be listed in the description though, so if you do want to get the exact finish, all the better, you will find that. Let's get started. So, laid out in front of me here, like the usual suspects, are our test miniatures. So, starting from the left, I've primed in Death Guard Green, Zandri Dust, and Mechanicus Standard Grey. In front of them, I've got Underhive Ash, Tyrant Skull, and Longbeard Grey. Now, the trick is in not being too hung up on the colours. I am going to make sure that everything is listed in the description, so if you do want to follow along exactly, you can do that, but I've painted guardsmen and stuff like that on the channel before, so the list should be plenty. I just want to show you how simple this is. So once you've laid down your color, now it doesn't need to be the Citadel primers either. There is a range of very good primer colors from the Army Painter as well. Vallejo also have a pretty broad spectrum. There's the new Colorforge ones which have come out recently, if you can get your hands on those. Those come very highly recommended from quite a few people. But the object is, pick a color that you like, and that's it. All right, we're not faffing around by putting another coat of anything over top or anything like that. The purpose here is to let our primer do the job for us. So let's get cracking with our secret weapon. This is a makeup brush, something nice and soft, and I've loaded this one up with my Underhive Ash. What I'm going to do is just brighten up the edges a little bit and introduce some texture. Now this really is the trick here. Anything that you put on the table at arm's length, if it's got a bit of texture to it, it's going to look way more realistic. Now, if you're not sure about how much you're going to leave behind on your miniature, pick an area where you know you're going to paint it later and just test what you're leaving on that. So on the edges of the gun there, I know I'm pretty good. Any areas of detail, like long coats and stuff like that, dry brush sideways to make sure you're only catching the raised areas. And this, you're going to hear me say texture a lot today, I would suggest. This is getting the most out of this and essentially tricking the eye into thinking you've done a lot more work. So once I'm done with this fella, what I am going to do is off-screen dry brush the other two because the technique is going to be the same. Now that has taken a matter of seconds for each guy, so if you are doing this to a section of say 5 to 10 men at a time, it's going to go very quickly, especially when you don't have to change colors halfway through. Now when I'm looking to paint an army very quickly, I tend to find the easiest way to do it is to break down your base coats into soft materials and hard materials. Now this is pretty simple and you'll ordinarily figure it out straight away. Your soft materials is things like your uniform, webbing and equipment like that, skin, that sort of stuff, whereas hard materials is anything which is, in reality, hard, so armor, guns, grenades, and stuff like that. Generally, you'll find that your soft base coats you can do first, because your hard stuff tends to be guns and armor that's going over top. The reason why I do it like this is that if I ever want to split up the shade that I'm using over the miniature, it's easier to do the soft stuff first, shade it, and then do the armor, which is exactly what I'm going to do here. So once again, I am going to pop the recipes for these in the description so you can follow along. I'm going to deliberately keep it very, very simple. But yeah, let's do those soft base coats now. Now, technically speaking, the front of the mask is going to be something that's hard, like a ceramic or plate metal or something, but I'm doing it at this stage because I want to shade it as part of this step. Now what I'm going to use is good old Sonic Tonic or Marine Juice. This is a mix, and I'll pop the recipe for that in the description. I've done a couple of videos on this, and it is a great general purpose, not quite Agrax Earthshade sort of thing. You could use Agrax Earthshade, of course. Just go ahead and thin it down a little bit before you use it. What I'm going to do is pop this over all of the soft stuff. You'll see I'm not at all concerned if I do hit, parts of his armor or what have you, his gun, that we're going to touch up later. So this is nice and quick. So side by side, once they're all dry, we've got loads of shading and they are ready for all of the hard base coats. Now for these guys, I'm actually going to use two. I'm going to use Lead Belcher for the metallic stuff, and then I'm going to use, it is German Grey from Vallejo. I'm just going to use these on all three once again because I think a simple color in black actually works super well for these miniatures. Now just as I start applying the armor color, which is going to end up a blackish finish, I do want to suggest if you want to do something different with the guns, a sandy color on this fella, maybe a deep blue on the urban styled guy, it's really up to you. But if you do want to get a bit of extra color in here, the weapon casing is a good choice. But here I'm just going to stick to good old black. Okay, now what I'm going to do is to shade our hard details, and for this I'm actually going to use Dark Tone from the Army Painter. You'll see quite commonly that I thin my shades down, but this time I'm not going to. I am going to use this neat, because I do want quite a pronounced effect. And the dark tone rather, it does have a really nice, almost smoky finish to it once it is dry. So this is going to dry a little bit glossy, but I am not worried about that in the least. Just over all those hard details, away we go. So there is our black armor that isn't really black, but is a little more interesting to look at than straight black would be. What we'll do with it to finish him off is to go ahead and varnish him. Now I've got here, this is Varnish Plus from Instar. Now let's go ahead and varnish him. I'm using a matte brush on because I tend to like that they're a little bit more reliable, shall we say, than some of the cans you can get out there. I'm going to go ahead and carefully make sure that he is completely covered in this stuff. I'm doing this now because I want the final step to still have a bit of a shine to it. And you'll see what I mean when we get to that. So, varnishing these guys. And you'll see what a difference that makes. When you find a matte varnish that you like, make sure you get a bunch of it because it's just golden. What I've got now, this is steel. This is quite a bright silvery color, and you'll see I've got next to nothing on my brush. What I'm going to do is, there's that dreaded word again, add some texture. What I want is, rather than painstakingly highlighting the entire dude, just with a little whisper of this tiny amount of paint on my brush, tickle some of the edges where I want it to look like it has been scratched, dinged up, and just seen a bit of wear. And you can be as generous or as sparing with this as you like. Try not to overdo it because it is easy to add too much very quickly. But wherever you do it, just remember it's going to look cool. So this is a little bit quicker than highlighting everything, but it does require a bit of aim and a bit of care. So take your time here and have some fun with it. And there we go. That's it. I have also come back with a tiny bit of white and just done in the eagles and a little bit on his mask, but you could just as easily skip those. I think it adds a little bit more, but as you can see, that texture, just those scratches and the dry brushing, kind of does everything for us. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and base these guys. I'm going to pop the recipes for those in the description so you can see how to do them if you want to at home. Let's get a look at these fellas all together once they are finished. And so, there at last, our miniatures are complete. Now, while I said this wasn't really a specific guide, hopefully it's giving you some ideas, or even just jogs the old imagination, on something you could use these for. Whether the miniatures or the methods themselves, these are really cool. And I do think there is something to be said for keeping things as simple as possible, because even though these guys are about 10 paints, I mean, if I mix up the Sonic Tonic, it comes to about 13 paints in total. But that's not a bad finish for a minimum of work and a collection of paints that's not going to break the bank. So, as always, thank you very much to Exit23 Games for the light and sound equipment, as well as all of my wonderful patrons who are keeping me ticking in paints and glue, including my gorgeous producers who are showing up on screen now. Thank you so much for your support. I really mean it. You folks are the ones who keep this channel going. Now, any questions or anything, feel free to drop them in the old comment box below. My Twitter and Instagram are both linked there too. So, thank you very much for your time, one and all, and you all enjoy the rest of your day.